All right. I think we're back live. If somebody will give me a thumbs up, a shout out, a howdy do. You know, it's a good thing I do this like a couple times before so I didn't totally freak out. Sometimes Facebook just freaks out and shuts down or blows up or goes crazy. So I'll give everybody a minute to step back in the room. I see Damien. Good evening, Damien. And let me just talk to our guest real quick. There we go. Wendy should be coming back in the room. When you get back in the room, Wendy, do me a quick favor. Say hello. Gail, when you come back in, say hello. Let me know that you guys are back in the room. Thank you, Elizabeth. That tells me we're up and running because if Elizabeth is in the room, we're broadcasting in high definition. Good evening, Canada. Oh, Canada. I was watching this documentary called The Maple Wars. I didn't realize it was such a thing. Who knew? The maple sugar industry. So good evening, Chuck. I'm just waiting to see Wendy pop back in. I think she's reloading. I think she had a bit of a panic attack when I kicked her out in pressing my buttons. So let me just, y'all chat among yourself. There you go. Thank you, Elizabeth. Take on the chat for me. Why call Wendy back? There we go. It's hard to talk and type and drive. I should only do one of them. Maybe talk and drive? No, type and drive. No, I don't know. Good evening, Greg. Good evening, John. We're just waiting for it to reload. For some reason, Facebook decided to kick me out. So, Wendy, you're going to have to log all the way out and then log all the way back in. And the reason you got to do that is because you're sort of hanging in between two screens. You join the video later. Oh, okay. So Wendy, if you can hear me, log all the way out. I got a message. She's okay. So hey, turn it into a teaching lesson. So sometimes with Facebook, there's like a 5, there's a delay, 30 seconds to up to a minute. So sometimes if you're trying to connect a guest and then the signal falls, it's like they're sort of like halfway. It's like being stuck in Facebook purgatory. I guess we'll call it that. And so asking her to log out and log all the way back in and then say hello should give her a new connection and we can get rocking and rolling on her book. So in the meantime, the book is titled Remarkable You. In the link down below where we started and it crashed, there is the pre-sale. The book actually doesn't come out until Sunday. And so the copy that you'll get if you order it today through the pre-sale between now and Sunday is actually a limited edition. It's like a gold foil special edition, 1 of 500. So Wendy, I know you can hear me. So go say hello once. Go to the screen where it says hello and hit start. Let me see if I can find you this way. There, I got you, Wendy. Just stay where you're at. We'll be adding now. Adding now. Texas. We got Texas, Canada, and Australia popping in.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what, Eric? I've decided I'm a much better author than I am on Facebook Live, okay?
You are a marvelous author.
Oh my goodness.
And I appreciate getting an advanced copy. As you can see, I just have a couple questions to ask you about the book.
Let me just get a drink of water. I'm incredibly stressed from trying to get into Facebook Live.
All right, well, I'll just take... So this is where, as the coach, I will ask us to move into a space of peace and harmony, to let go of what wasn't and move into what can be.
Absolutely.
To understand that sometimes life bumps and bangs, but it is how we get back up and move forward that brings us to the place of success. Do you feel rested and relaxed?
I feel much better now that I've been actually able to join.
Hey, Sylvia. Hey, Rose. So let's do this. One of the things I always do at the beginning of a coaching call is I'll sometimes say, let's set the intention for this call. I know that I have an intention and you had an intention in writing the book and then we had one coming together. So go ahead and set the intention for this evening.
For me, my intention is that people hear the heart of my book, because that's incredibly important for me. I haven't written a book just to be an author. I've written a book to bring hope. And I've been thinking into this quite a lot because the launch was on Sunday, is what do I do I'm a life and business architect. Sure, I have a business, all of those things, but I want to be a dealer of hope. I want to be able to bring hope where there is none. So that's my intention of this call tonight, is that, or this morning here in Australia, is that people see my heart and the heart of my story and the heart of my life, because my story is my life.
Well, and I love that because, and I'm going to just be pulling from the book as we go.
Excuse me.
I know you don't have the same copy as me, but you wrote it, so you've got it memorized. I love that you mentioned right off at the end, the start, the heart of this book, sharing the story of my journey, is to show you how I found hope, real hope, and how that allowed me to discover the remarkable within me.
Yeah.
I read that, and that's not even like that. I don't know how far in the book. That's like on the introduction. I was like, ooh. And so I had to clear my schedule, because when I read that, I thought, wow, I love this. I found hope. And I love the fact that you used the word real hope, not false hope, not empty hope. So there's a part that I want to read, and it's chapter 1. It's the first paragraph. I need to get, you know, the one. This is, y'all, settle back, listen in. I'm going to get my reading voice in. This tells you the story that we're going to be going through together tonight. I remember my father's funeral vividly. As I stood by his grave, my heart was broken. My dad was my hero. I followed him everywhere. When he was gardening, fishing, panning for gold in the creeks, working, I was there. As they lowered his coffin into that big, dark hole, I fell to the ground sobbing. I was so overwhelmed with grief and guilt, I could not breathe. I was the one who put him there. I had killed my dad, and I was only 13. That paragraph, that story, that capsule, as I stood there and read that, I can't imagine what a 13-year-old girl on public display in that moment was experiencing.
I see the image, you know, I remember those moments, and the overwhelming loss and guilt. I think guilt, and even then shame. And I talk a lot about shame in my book, because shame is actually quite an insidious thing, as is suicide. But the shame of what I'd done and the guilt that I carried for what I thought I had done at that age of 13 was more than I could bear. Like I literally could not breathe.
As I read that, I tell you, so I was like, as they say, clutching my pearls. I was like, I can't read the rest of this book. I'm just going to send it back to her.
That's not what I wanted.
No, because it really, as everybody on my side is saying, but it so quickly moved me into knowing the journey that we are going to go on. And then as you go on to explain, as you just highlighted, shame, as Dr. Brene Brown has defined it in her excellent work on the topic, is the intensely painful feeling that we are so deeply flawed that we are unworthy of belonging. In other words, the belief we are such terrible human beings, we are not fit for human society. Hopelessness emerges from shame, because when you believe you are not worthy of love, you also believe you will always stay that way. And then you go on to talk about inheriting your parents' legacy of hopelessness.
Yeah.
Talk about that inherit, because that to me was a really interesting concept of inheriting hopelessness.
Well, it comes from the environment, of course, that you brought up in, and often the environment we create ourselves and we choose to step into. But for me, with my father, had such, and as you go on through the book, and I guess I don't want to give you everything in the book today, but he had a real dark sense of hopelessness over him. The environment, I guess, he lived in the hopelessness state of his mind and his life. My mum was the same, and I go on to share a lot about my mum in the story as well. So naturally, and I love the law of the picture, you know, what we see is what we do, what we believe, what we know. So I inherited this sense of hopelessness that, here I am talking with my hands, I will put them down. I'm excited. I inherited that sense of hopelessness. So for me, there was no hope. And if I was writing a book for you to discover, or the reader to discover the remarkable within them, I wanted them to know that I actually understood what hopelessness is all about, because that was my life. I just didn't have a name for it then. I did not know that that's what it was called, but that's where I was, smack bang in this life of hopelessness. There was no way out. There was no way forward. The only way out was to choose to end your life. And sadly, both of my parents chose that option.
But it's interesting because, so there was hopelessness, but in that moment of standing at your father's graveside, etc., you were then thrust into shame.
Oh, shame, guilt, responsibility, control to try and look after the family, but responsibility, guilt, shame, all of those things, humiliation. And at that moment, I'm 13, so I don't even know what these words are. I just know what's going on in my heart and what that is doing to me. And even now, when I think back, how did I actually survive that at 13? The burden was very heavy.
And I want to jump to a description you use, which I love. So y'all, if you see the top of my head a lot, that's just sorry, because this book is too good. I didn't get a chance to memorize it, just highlight it 3 times. I love this description on page 48. When we carry something for a long time, our arms ache, and it seems heavier than when we started out. It is the same with the baggage we carry in our hearts and in our minds. Unless we can put it down, unless we can put them down, they weigh us down. I love the way, and this is, I forgot which chapter, sorry. I love the way, reflection on hope. I love how you talk about starting out on a journey, and we pick up our suitcases and we're all excited and they feel light. And as we go through life, you talk about how your arms begin to ache and they begin to get heavier, and things haven't been really added to them, but somehow they get heavier and heavier. And then you talk about the description of the stickers of other people's labels and beliefs and thoughts about you get slapped on the outside, and that there's no place to put them down. That's right. And you add to it, don't you? You've got this baggage. And for me, that describes beautifully, the description describes beautifully what I felt within my heart. I carried this baggage, and it started when I was 13. It was most likely well and truly there before then, but it comes to that sense of awareness when I was 13 because I added to what was already in my life as I grew up. So my baggage was there. And when we do, we add to it, don't we? We add other people's. And I share about bogus stories, the BS that we carry, which is in those suitcases, the things that other people say about us, the things we believe about ourselves, the things that we pick up. And when we carry this luggage, and we've got our luggage overflowing with this baggage and this heavy, unhelpful baggage, we actually look for more of the same. Because... And it was... Yeah, and I love the way, you guys, this is so perfectly written. Perfectly written. It's, you use it very, you use words very cautiously and carefully. You chose your words and your description so clearly that it's like, I feel like I'm like prying in through your bedroom window, so to speak, because you don't hold back. And I love how you talk about those added things are like souvenirs of our life that we think we need to bring forward, because without it, we have no history, but they just add to the weight and the baggage. Yeah. Talk about those souvenirs that were labeled from 13 through your uncle's house, into your mother's, into all of the other journeys between like 13 and 16, you collected a lot of heavy souvenirs.
Oh, yeah. Well, number one, guilt, number one. And what's not in the book is, you know, standing in that witness box at my father's, at the inquest into his death, where I actually took an extra load of guilt because I took a load of responsibility that I added to my guilt and shame and humiliation. So I started to collect. I started to collect responsibility. I started to collect the pain, the humiliation, the shame. And then, as I said, we look for it. When we feel a certain way about something, we tend to be drawn to that certain way about something, that guilt, that responsibility, that shame, and it becomes at the forefront of our mind. So the baggage just fills up. Like, I'm sure I'm not explaining that correctly, but that's what it feels like to me. We just add to that baggage. And I overpacked my baggage from the age of 13. And by the time I was 16, it was well and truly weighing me down, and it proceeded to get worse. As I share, and I do share very openly and very honestly about my life, Eric. There is no doubt about that.
No, you do share very clearly.
But
it's not what I do like about the way you share. It's not a look at what I did, survived, conquered. It's just like, by the way, if you did a background check, you'd find this, this, and this. So we might as well discuss it, because I'm also going to have to show you where we're going.
Oh.
And I can't cover up the ugly and only show the good, and I can't have the good without the ugly. So I like the way you go through. And for those of you, again, that are just popping in, the book is Remarkable You. The author is Wendy Burns. It comes out on Sunday. It's her journey to discover her real heart, her real remarkableness. You share in a way that it allows me to understand without feeling like, you know, it's one of those chick flicks. It doesn't feel like that. So well done. I want to go over, I feel like I'm in quiet, like you're at a disposition. Do you feel like I'm just flipping?
Oh, that's fine. I don't have the book in front of me. I have it in my mind and in my heart. So
I love when you say this, there's two things on this. It's just too good. I can't pick just one. We seek and search, but until we have an awareness of what we are looking for, we seek the wrong thing. That, when I read that, I actually put a P and a star and an A. So P is post it, A is act on it, and T is teach it. So by the way, this will probably end up somewhere in what I teach later on. When we seek and search, but until we have an awareness of what we are looking for, we seek the wrong thing. How many times have we all done that? We're out there like running around in the dark, banging our toes on bed steps, and we don't even know what we're doing. We just feel like if we could stay shark in the water, momentum, we'll discover it. When did you figure out you had been seeking the wrong thing, so to speak?
Truly, when I was 34, I started to get that awareness, as you know, and I won't share the whole book. But even
I'm trying to be delicate.
Yeah, same here. I don't want to get. I want you to buy.
If everybody here commits to buying the book, she'll sneak a few more tips in. That's
and it's not about the selling; it's to get it in front of people.
No.
But
because it really, I read it in one sitting because I had to. I couldn't stop.
All my pre-readers have said they couldn't put it down and they had to read it to the end. So that's great. Then that's achieved what I wanted it to be. When did I realize? It's been a journey of realizing, and I now know very clearly, and the last few years, as I started to find the remarkable within me, not the remarkable that somebody else wanted me to be, and not the remarkable in somebody else that I wanted to impose upon me, because that's where we go wrong. When we're seeking, I'm seeking what Eric's got, because Eric looks successful. Eric's got everything that I have never had. So I'm going to be like Eric. I'm going to walk like him, talk like him, dress like him. And mind you, I did all those things because I did not know who I was. Until we find our unique, remarkable you, until we find who we have been created to be, and borrow my faith. If you don't have faith, I have faith that I have been created to be a unique woman of influence. And I believe that. I can say that now. I can say I am a woman of influence. I know my purpose in this life, but it took me a search until I found it. And until we're really sure about who we are, what our purpose is, what we've been called to do, we will find somebody else's purpose and we'll impose that upon ourselves. But guess what? It's like me putting on a size 18 dress. It's not going to fit me. It'll cover me, but it won't fit me in the right places. And it's the same at putting somebody's shoes on that are the wrong size. We could get away with it, but they're not going to fit us the way they're meant to fit us, like that hand to glove. We need our purpose to fit us like hand to glove. And it's okay if we don't know it wholly, but we start looking in the right places for it and not the wrong places.
Well, and I love, wait, I think I have one marked on purpose. But anyhow, so here you have, and you're talking about stepping into that awareness, so to speak. And you say, please, as you read this, hear my heart. I did not understand what happened to me in those moments, but something happened. And for the first time, I felt that speck of hope. Yes, it was a very tiny seedling, but it was there. It was not a magical transformation. If that is what you're thinking, I went home to the same situation that night and woke up in the same circumstances the next morning. But what I did wake up to was a slight lifting of guilt I had carried for almost 20 years. What I love about the way you explain that is that speck of hope.
Yeah.
So often we think when we make a decision for transformation, when we want to step into that moment of discovery, like we think that when we may answer the altar call or take the seminar or walk across the fire, that we're going to wake up and the whole world's going to be different. And I love the honesty where you said, what I did wake up to was a slight lifting. A slight lifting, almost as if you had gotten a haircut. It was just enough that I noticed it, but not enough for anybody else really to see.
Exactly. And I think that the last thing I would want to do is to write a self-help book, my story or any story, write anything that would lead the reader or lead the person that I'm working with on a path that's going to promise them a miracle and promise them a change in circumstances overnight. We need to find that seed. I needed to find my seed of hope. It was there. I just needed to push away the baggage to find it. And even if it's the tiniest speck, once we see it, we can start to water it and it can start to grow. And you still have to do the journey. This is not an easy journey, but as I said to my callers on a caller this morning, everything worthwhile is uphill. And we can trip up on obstacles on the way unless we have a greater awareness. And my hope is that this book will bring a greater awareness.
And yes. So then you go on to start to explain how you begin the process. And you said, do you want to be a historian? Always focusing on how bad your past was.
I love this.
Never appreciating the things you have, the thing you do have. It's hard to find that dream, that hope, if you're constantly looking backwards into your past. If your head is turned backwards while you're trying to walk forward, you will trip up. And I thought, that's where I make the mistake. I'm like wanting transformation. I'm wanting newness. I'm wanting change, but I'm still looking back and blaming myself, blaming others, being like, it's like hamster
you like this.
squeaking so loud, I can't but not notice it.
We do this. We're looking back here, and I lived there for so long, looking back and looking back in my past. Or then when I did, and you trip over because you can't see forward. I encourage everyone that I work with, when you need to look back, put your hand up as a symbol of, I need to look back at that history for a moment. But while I'm looking back, I'm looking in the rear view mirror. This is my rear view mirror. I can see, yes, there was stuff there that's going to catalyst me to go forward, but I'm still looking forward. You need to keep our eyes forward, everybody, to be able to achieve what we've been created to achieve. When we look backwards, we trip over. But the other problem is we can be that historian, and I sat there for a very long time, or I become that journalist where I'm reporting on how bad my life is. No, I want somebody else to fix it for me. It is so bad. But I need it to be a futurist. I need it to look forward, and I need it to take that one step and then that one step. So my little seed would water and grow.
Well, and I love when I read that. I know you guys have said I love like 1,000 times. Okay, leave me alone. I really enjoyed. Because that idea of I can be a historian, I can be a journalist, or I can be a creator, but I can't be all three simultaneously. And the more often that I move into being the creator, the further away I stand from being the journalist or the historian.
Yeah.
And so you go on to say, when you agree, or what you agree with, you empower. What you empower, I love this choice of words. Yes, I said I love. What you empower devours.
Very much.
When you use the word devour, I could just see that beast of your past, that mindset, that shame, that guilt, that public humiliation, all of that stuff that 13-year-old girl was trying to run away from, just chasing you down the street. And if you stopped and turned around and paid attention to it one more time, it was going to be able to devour you, to eat you whole.
Absolutely. And that's what happens. And, you know, my history of suicide. So suicide was there chasing me down that road and getting very close, clipping at my heels.
So I wanted to ask you a question. See, I even have questions included. See, you're like, man,
I love you, Eric.
Copy, by the way, because this one's all
on Monday.
Marked up.
On Monday, it's being shipped to you.
Oh, don't forget, you guys. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Sunday, the book goes on sale. It has a special gold foil, so where you see the word, remarkable you on this one is actually in gold foil. And there's only 500 of them, and they're all getting signed. So you want to get in it. And by the way, there is a course. Is the course just for women?
Women and men, but yeah, Remarkable You course, yeah.
So it's an 8-week course?
Yeah.
So, and that if you go to the website that's been included, you'll actually see a spot for the book and then a spot for the course. And so during the 8 weeks, it sort of goes through these topics of shame and guilt and hope and fear, and things like that. And it really uses the book somewhat as a reference and a workbook, because one thing I didn't explain about the book is at the end of each of the chapters or story, there's a focus point, sort of like, let's pull away the story, but remember the meaning. Like every one of these has a meaning. And then there's some action steps. So during the 8-week course, you guys are going to be guided through the action steps with Wendy firsthand. So I know that it is walking into scary water. I mean, this is a very sensitive subject for many people, and not having somebody to guide them through could be the obstacle to healing. And so that's why Wendy wanted to make sure that the book didn't come out until the course was ready, because she didn't want to leave people hanging on the side of the boat.
Exactly. And my publisher and myself are currently creating our journal that will go with the book. So there'll be a journal out as well that will go with the book. So you've got the both to work together. So, yeah.
Yeah, the action steps are very much a journaly thing that you could actually answer every day, or, check in on yourself. So the question I had, it said at the top of 76, it's one thing to lie to yourself. It's another to believe it. I had believed it, but would know more. And then you go on to talking about self-esteem versus self-worth. What's the difference?
Self-esteem is often, I believe, something that we can get. Other people will tell us how great we are, and it helps our self-esteem to a degree. Like you've said to me, you're a great author. Of course, that makes me feel like I've achieved something that I set out to achieve. For me, self-worth is about being able, and I think I refer to this in the book as well, being able to look in the mirror and know your worth, and to have that self-esteem and self-worth with yourself. It's for someone else to tell you that you're worthy. That's great and that's lovely of them, but you need to believe it within your heart. So for me, being able to look in the mirror and know that I am worthy, that I am remarkable, that my self-esteem comes from knowing who I am, and for me, whose I am. That's where self-worth and self-esteem come into play for me. We can hear it from other people, just like we hear the BS, the stuff that tells us we are unworthy, we are useless, we're no good, we have no hope, we have no future. But let's peel that back, let's push that away, and let's find who we really are and be able to look in the mirror and say, hey, I am remarkable. And sometimes that's really hard, and it took me a long time to be able to say, I am remarkable, but I can say it now. I know that I am. And for everybody watching, I know that you are as well. So even if you don't believe it right now, believe me, I know you are. And I'll help you find your way through. Can I just say, Eric, I could not, you talked about the action steps. Anybody that knows me will know that I always have a call to action. I want you to action and do something. I want you to take an action.
Wendy is a no mess around kind of gal. Let me just tell you, this is not tea and crumpets.
No, that's certainly not. But I know that if you take the actions, I know that if you do the work, I don't want you to think you're going to buy this book and put on the shelf. I want you to do something with it. I want you to take the actions and give it to somebody that you know, because we haven't touched on the subject that this book is really all about. Suicide. It's about overcoming this insidious thing called suicide. It affects so many in different places. I sat within my church community and was contemplating suicide. You know, where I live right now, somebody committed suicide within our church community just 2 weeks ago on Tuesday. See, we hide our hopelessness and we hide our shame, because you know why? We don't want people to know, because why we're covered with shame. So why would we say we're not okay? Why would we say we're hopeless? Why do we say we don't know the way forward? It's one of the reasons I've bared my life, I guess, Eric, to the world, is that I want this to get into the lives of the many people that it will save, and to talk about the things that we don't talk about.
And I can't find the reference, but where you talk about how could I be a Christian and consider suicide? Especially in particular churches, it's like you can't even hold that thought and still be in grace.
Yeah.
And be in alignment with God. And you talk about being at that moment of so desperately looking for an exit that you were considering suicide, and the one community, your church community, that you wanted to turn to would have been gasped that you could think such a thing and still occupy a pew on Sunday. And so you were almost forced into isolation because of faith, or false faith, I guess in that case, that here was a community that you so desperately wanted to call out to, but because of the shame that you felt for thinking the thoughts you thought inside that community, you couldn't.
And that's right. And it comes back, you just hit the nail on the head. I was thinking that this is where I sat. And when we sit under that shame and when we sit under that hopelessness, we make bad choices. You know, my book is really simple. It is simple in the fact that what are the big keys in my book are attitude and choices and responsibility for ourselves. So that's what this is about. And choices, we make a choice to believe what is not truth. And we add that to our baggage, don't we? We add that limiting self-belief to our baggage. And that's where I sat. My husband didn't even know. He read my book. He's only just recently read my book. He knows.
And you guys have been married
42 years. 42 years.
Sorry. I'm like him. I forgot somewhat. I was only counting the good ones.
Yeah, but you know what? You don't share it, do you? And he knew, of course, about my dad and my mum, but he didn't know the backstory to all of that. And when he read my book, he couldn't put it down.
And that so speaks. So when you read the book, because you all are buying the book and reading the book, you can't turn away now. Um, Here you've shared a life with somebody for 40 plus years, and it's not been easy. There's been job transfers and kids and losses and gains and all of that. And still you had secrets from this person up until a year ago when the book began.
Well, up until about a month and a half ago when he got to finally read the final edition.
How freeing to finally become the authentic you in your marriage.
It's been very freeing for him to know my whole story, but I wasn't ready to share it prior to this. I needed to know the right time for that. And we have no secrets really within our marriage. This was probably the thing that I'd hidden, well, not even intentionally hidden. I guess you get to the stage where you think, oh, you know, she's being a historian because she's back in that place. But I needed him to see it, the whole perspective of where this was meant to be. And for me, yeah, I needed to write the book for him to see that.
So how did you battle back the demon? Because I'm sure as you handed him the draft copy and said, okay, honey, here it is. And knowing that there would be some awareness that he was moving into that maybe he hadn't been, how did you battle back that demon of like, is he going to love me when he gets to the last page?
Honestly, Eric, hand on my heart, my mind didn't even go there.
Really? Congratulations.
Not in one way, shape, or form. I know that he loves me wholeheartedly and unconditionally. I was more concerned. That's not even really a word, but my thoughts went more to, I wonder what he'll think of my ability to write. My mind went there because I knew there would be a shock to him, and probably for my family as well. You know, my family have just read the book because I wanted them to read my story before it went live, and I gave everybody the opportunity. Some said they don't want to read it, they don't want to know. They want to know me as I am, and that's fine too. It's always a choice. But I knew he would still love me no matter what.
And I think that speaks to the fact that you had been able to transition, and you talk about that as part of one of the jobs that you were in, out of that reliance on self-esteem and labels, that you were like, you know what? I love me.
Yeah, I do.
And not to say it doesn't matter if he doesn't, but I'm okay with me and my story.
Yeah, because otherwise I grab some more baggage and I add to it, because I'm thinking his opinion of my life, my darling Bill's opinion of my life, will affect where I go from now. It was never about that. My life is my life, and truly, I am really bearing my soul to the world in publishing this book.
If I can get you to cry, then I've done like an Oprah moment.
I don't know that I will. I'm really.
I don't think you will. I know you too well,
Eric.
So here's.
I'll just say one thing. I did on Monday night. I thought, I've read my book to edit it with my editor and to go over it and get it ready. And I read it again for the first time as a reader on Monday night, and I did cry.
Well, I'm not going to admit on camera, but if you ask me later, I'll say that I can understand what that must have felt like. That's about all the further I'm going. I love, yes, I said it again, you guys, this description of when life becomes difficult, when cracks spread through our existence and our hopes and our strength seems to leak out, fill the gaps with hope. Like gold adorning distressed antique art, hope will reinforce, add value, and reveal more beauty. That so reminded me of the pottery, the King Su pottery.
Yeah, where they break it.
Where, yeah, when the emperor broke his favorite glass and then it was filled with gold, and now makes it beautiful. There we go. I think we bumped for a minute. I love the fact that you sort of referenced that idea of the crack makes it beautiful. It is in the cracking and in the healing and in the mending of our lives that the real beauty begins to burst forth. And again, the reference to gold because of your dad and the experiences you guys used to go paddling down at the river of gold. And that's what I mean, you guys. The imagery, the commodity of thought to make sure that there was just one little morsel set. And it's like fine dining at a five-star restaurant where they just bring you this little morsel and you're like, is that it? By the time you get it in your mouth, you're overwhelmed with flavor. That's the way you write. You write so carefully.
Thank you.
That when it's placed, truly, when it's placed in front of you, and I read that and I was like, when life becomes difficult, when cracks spread through our existence, our strength seems to leak out. Fill the gaps with hope, like gold adorning distressed antique art. Hope will reinforce, add value, and reveal more beauty. I mean, I'm a visual person, and that I could just see that precious bowl that now is lined with gold and has become such a work of art that it's set aside because of the cracks that have spread through it.
Thank you.
I had one more thing that I was digging into. Let me just find it here.
While you're finding it, I'll tell you, I'm very visual as well. And I guess that's why when I wrote from my heart, I needed to paint a really good picture.
You did a beautiful job of it. You wrote a lot of really good pictures. So chapter 18, I'm not giving away a secret in that one. I'm just going to read you this paragraph, if you guys will allow me. Every one of us is remarkable. You are remarkable. I told you these things at the beginning. I hope by this point you are at least starting to believe me. The gold within us is so often hidden, buried beneath the dirt and the grime we have been exposed to, or covered ourselves in. We rarely see the glint of gold shining from within us. We are looking for it. The journey is one of self-discovery, where you dig deep to find out who you really are. It will not always be easy, and it will take time, but you can start today. I promise, if you take one step and then another, before long, you will have journeyed far, and you will find the scenery is quite different. You will discover the remarkable you.
Yep, you will. One step, guys, one step. I don't know what to say, Eric.
You can tell I love to read. Yes, I said again. Reading this book.
You make me cry now. You are making me cry.
Do you want? Yes. Teasing, because it's that awkward moment. The gift that you give in this book, what I found somewhat interesting, those of us that know Wendy or have met Wendy walking down a hall, you're not sure if she's working for the Secret Service or an accounting firm, because she tends to, she's proper. She's a well-bred lady. She keeps herself to the point. As I started to read this and see the gentleness, the kindness, the 13-year-old girl that was wounded over and over again, the abuse and neglect and pain that she suffered, and yet this underlying current, this ribbon of gold that was within you that so often, and there in the story and the book, there are over and over and over times that you laid on the floor and within a breath were willing to forfeit it all. Yeah. And then to see you now standing as such a powerful, influential, compassionate leader that when you speak, you command a position, but you always do it from a sense of wanting other people to hold that same position for themselves in whatever they seek. Yeah. You are beyond remarkable, my friends. Yeah. I don't know what the step above remarkable is. We'll just call it amazingly remarkable. How's that?
Well, my next book's called Remarkably More, because I can't take people on this journey and not show them how to get remarkably more in their life. So I'm releasing that. I'm telling everybody today. I'm putting it out.
And it's going to be out by spring,
Well.
U.S. spring, not Aussie spring.
Robin, I hope you're watching.
I'll just send you the tape. And I do want to talk about that. So when you get the book, especially if you are unpacking a lot of pain and memories, and it does begin to go into your, one, what I commend you for is the responsibility of putting suicide hotlines, helplines, hope lines right there smack in the beginning of the book. You do say in the front of the book that this may trigger things. Please know that there are resources available to you. Here they are.
Yeah, very important. We need to keep safe. And I'm aware that my story in so many different areas will touch areas of people's lives that perhaps they've hidden within themselves and not shared. And I would never want to do that without making sure that the reader remains safe. So hear my heart. If this triggers anything in any way, make sure you reach out to somebody and don't try and do what I did for many years and hide it.
Very much. I want to read one more thing, and then I'll sort of turn it over to you if I missed anything. But I think I got a lot of good things.
I think you've done well. You've nearly shared the whole book.
Huh?
I said you've almost shared the whole book.
I tried to just tease into it, give you a little tongue tasters. So, and this is in page 143 in your epilogue. I think I can do this. Lord, you know everything there is to know about me. You perceive every moment of my heart and soul, and you understand my every thought before it even enters my mind. You are so intimately aware of me, Lord. You read my heart like an open book, and you know all my words I'm about to speak. Before I even start a sentence, you know every step I will take before my journey even begins. You've gone into my future to prepare the way, and in kindness you follow behind me, to spare me from the harm of my past. With your hand of love upon my life, you impart a blessing on me. This is just too wonderfully deep and incomprehensible. Your understanding of me brings me wonder and strength.
I can't speak. It's truth. It's truth. I am not marketing my book as a Christian book, but my faith is very evident as you read through my story, because to be true to who I am, I cannot not share my faith. That's real, and this book is very real to the very core, and that psalm is exactly my life. That will make me cry because that's my life.
But I want to. I don't want you to apologize for your faith.
No.
There's faith and there's religion.
There is a big difference.
Don't we know sometimes? We all need faith. Faith is hope. Faith is love. Faith is...
Future answers in the hope. We know that.
Yes. And so for those of you that might be like, oh, it's one of those Christian self-help books. No, it's not a Christian self-help book. It is the story of a woman who had lost hope, who had inherited a legacy of hopelessness and despair and depression, who was told that the only thing she would be worthy of is her family's legacy, which you discover as you go through the book was not all that bright and shiny. And she held on to one small speck of hope and just watered it every single day to end up where she's at now.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. I don't apologize for my faith, but I had to learn the difference between religion and faith. And you hear about that in my story because there's such a huge difference. And
yeah, you bring it up a lot.
Are you turning over to me? Can I say something?
It's your show now. I still have a few tabs, but I'm going to save those for when we're hanging out for cocktails. So.
if you're watching this today, I would ask you to do something to help me. I have a goal and I need your help. Now this will make me cry. I want to get this book in front of as many people as possibly we can get it there. We have this insidious thing here in Australia, and I know it's all over the world, called suicide, as I touched on earlier. Every day we're hearing of, last week a 12-year-old boy here in Australia committed suicide. Only one that I'm aware of. There will be many more. And suicide is not a respecter of age, and it's not a respecter of people. And it comes from hopelessness. In writing my book and sharing my life, I'm not giving a magic answer, but I am giving hope. I want to deal in hope. So I'm asking if you will help me get this to the very top of the bestseller, not for my ego. This is not about my ego. Please hear my heart. This is not about my ego. This is about to get it in front of as many people as possible. So if you would love to jump on that link, and Eric, I think you've posted it, to jump onto the mailing list for the...
We'll make sure it gets like everywhere.
The limited edition. And I will be posting them worldwide next week on Sunday. And there's really specific things about the 8th, which is the official launch, and the 9th is my birthday. And in between the 8th and the 9th was when my mother committed suicide, and she was found on my birthday. I want to turn that to good. So on the 9th, when my book goes live, I will be giving away to those people. I want to give you a birthday gift. So if you purchase the limited edition, you will also get the ebook as a gift. So you can go on and review my ebook on the Sunday, on the 9th. It'll be in your inbox. I promise you it'll be in the inbox if I stay up till 1 a.m. to get them to you, so that we can get it up there and get it out there. I want people to hear about how to overcome hopelessness. I want to plant a seed in people's lives to know that there is a way. We can do it. And if we join together as a community, each person will make a difference, because isn't that what we all want to do, is add value and impact and save lives? I know that's my heart. I want people to know they're remarkable.
And the thing about a book, for me, is I remember being in a car once and I had a brand new book and I was like holding it and somebody's like, "Whoa, what book did you get?" And I like showed them the cover and they're like, "Let me see it." I'm like, "No, I haven't read it yet." They're like, "What?" I'm like, "I haven't read it yet." And they're like, "Just let me see it." I'm like, "No, this is my friend. This is my, I went and found this friend. I went and found this book. I'm excited to go spend time with them. Nobody else can touch it, see it, or be near it until I finish." For me, I could always look at a book and find somebody or something that I could click to and be like, "Oh, I'm not alone in the universe." Yeah. Books like yours are those things that hopefully a kid will stumble across in a schoolroom, at a teen center, in a church lobby, and they'll look at it and go, "Well, what is this?" And as they start to go into it and they read the first few chapters, the way it's written will be like, "I'm not alone." Mm-hmm. And that "I'm not alone" thing is so vital to breaking the isolation. You even talk about in your book how you became so isolated in your fear and your guilt and your shame that there was nobody. And so having a book is sometimes the biggest impact with the smallest footprint. Yeah. Because they can sit in quiet in a car seat or, in the quiet of their home and find out that they're not alone. Yeah. Yeah, that's... And that the person at the end of the book still stands up. Thank you, Eric. That's the idea. Can I share one more thing? It's your show, girl. My 16-year-old grandson came in the other morning for breakfast, and he said to me, "Grandma," yes, I am a grandma. I'm a very proud grandma. He said, "Can I show you my English assignment?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to read it." And he pulled up his computer and he read out the last paragraph. And he wrote about my book. He wrote about my life journey. And he wrote about the fact that there's a remarkable you in people. And for him,
I am remarkable. And why he wrote about it in his English assignment, not about me, he was writing about in a political assignment about what government needs to do to help people find hope. And so it was in the context of that. And honestly, now that's making me cry, my nose run. Honestly, when he walked away, I thought, if I've achieved by one person only that my grandson got to read my book and to see that this can impact other people and help people find hope, then I've achieved what I set out to do, even with that one person. For me, that was an astonishing thing for me, that someone that knows me and loves me unconditionally could see the potential in something that I had achieved. That was really quite significant and an emotional moment on this journey. Because I don't, ladies and gentlemen on this call, I bear my life very openly. And even for my 16-year-old grandson to read that and to be able to read past that bearing of my life, to see that there's a reason behind this book was really quite significant.
And understandably, because as honest and authentic and raw as you were, and many times moved to literally catching my breath, especially the car scene. There, that'll tease him. The car scene, I was, it was just like, oh, you wrote that so beautifully. But as I read it, the impact of, that was tough. But as I read it, I never felt as if you were using it to exploit my emotions.
No.
Just to show me how far people can fall and still breathe, and how we have to not take for granted the fact that they're breathing doesn't mean that they're not that last breath. Like you show how close, that if somebody had just turned their attention away at one particular moment, this story could have never been written.
Yeah, it's true.
There are many moments in this that it's like something walked in and nudged you. So as you've referenced a couple times, long enough for you to get distracted to forget what you were trying to get done.
Yeah.
If you question your writing ability, I hereby give you an A++ gold star, candy coated lollipop. Your writing is beautiful. Your description, your narrative, the way you carry the story forward. As I was reading and I'm thinking, how do we make this a screenplay? But I'm not sure if it needs to be that big. It's kind of a quiet little intimate journey that you've provided. And then to back it up by giving everybody the opportunity to be in an 8-week class with you. Tell them a little bit about the 8 weeks.
We're just finalizing that at the moment. So it's 8 weeks via Zoom, a Zoom platform. I love it because I can have you personally in this little classroom. It'll be a Zoom call, one of the very rare ones that will not be recorded. I won't be recording those calls. I usually record my training for people to be able to review, but I want to keep it as personal and as private.
Yeah, that would be awkward.
Yeah, so depending on who I'm working with, some people may want to do that on an individual basis, or some may be comfortable to come within a group setting and go through this book and through the process with me on that 8-week journey. We will be setting dates for those to start soon. So I'm just going to wait and see what interest I get. I have a lot of people wanting to jump into my empowering groups, I guess I call them, my Remarkable You groups. And I have
Well, I saw a couple of people in the feed, and you'll have to go pick them out because they were saying they can't wait for it to start. And you're probably going to be having lunch soon with Renee Michelle. She's a fellow Aussie.
Oh, lovely.
I forget where she's at, but it's only Australia. It's not like it's a big space to try and
It's not a
figure
big
out.
space, and I need to come over there and have lunch with you, Eric.
I'd rather come there. You and Renee will put together a thing, and I'll just come and sit on the panel as a host or something.
That sounds wonderful.
I'd love to go back and up and down the Gold Coast. Gosh, Australia is so beautiful. Again, my friend, I know I ambushed you for a copy early. I am so grateful that I got to read it and then have this time with you and then to expose you to so many people and share your story with them. I'm blessed for our friendship.
Thank you, Eric.
You just keep layering it and layering it and layering it to better and better. So thank you for that.
Oh, and Eric, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about my book. And it's the first, really, I haven't shared. This is my first discussion about my book, because we have an official launch on Sunday, an invite only, with some close people that have been on the journey with me. And then it goes into the bookstores, and we have some launches coming up in bookstores. So,
well, don't worry, because Renee, your fellow Aussie, will be dragging you on the circuit with her. She's world famous now in Australia.
There you go. I look forward to that opportunity.
And her book just launched 2 weeks ago.
And what's that?
Maybe a little bit longer.
What's that book called?
I'll send you the link.
Lovely.
Battle Scars Are Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Fabulous.
So I'll send you the link on it. I think she's still here. I don't know. She maybe wandered off. You know how those Aussies are. Always got to go out and do a quick tea and a walkabout. And it's funny because you do have some Aussie expressions in there, which were quite fun.
We talked about that. I talk about hotel. Let me just explain. When I say hotel, I mean the dingiest, dungiest public bar you could possibly have. When I referred to hotel, Eric said he was thinking the Marriott. But let me tell you, it's not the Marriott.
And I explained to Wendy, so in Australia, you can't get a liquor license unless it's attached to a hotel or a food service.
That's right.
And so you would have these like one-room dumpy hotels with a bar out in front. So when she used hotel, I thought it was kind of cute. And then you used, I was wagging off school.
Oh, wagging school.
I think it was.
Yes.
Wagging school. And then the Aussies are really good for using the wrong spelling of realized. You guys use S.
That's right. No, actually, I think it's the Americans that spell it wrong and not the Aussies.
Well, since you guys created it, I guess we are the wrong ones. We don't use the Z, or we use the Z. So I loved finding those little things in there too. But thank you again, my friend.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Go out and have an amazing day.
Thank you.
If you need anything from me, let me know. I'm here to support you in this journey. I'm going to make sure we get all the extra links and bubbles and things attached.
Thank you, Eric.
Feel free to post on the Your Success Life anything they need to know coming up. But again, thank you for a remarkable story.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you for the opportunity to share my heart. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on. It's been a real pleasure.
Ciao.
Bye.
I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
Bye.
Bye-bye.